It's about a month since I stopped working wine retail. I took the job for a year to gain experience and insight. I started my wine career in the writing space. In the writing and media space, all wines are great. We go to these small producers, taste these limited production wines, everything's outstanding. But that's not the reality of what most people are drinking. A lot of my entrepreneur friends say when you work for somebody, you never work for the paycheck, you work for the experience. And I learned a lot in 1 year. I'm going to mix in some things for casual wine drinkers in terms of how to get the best bottle possible, and also some points, some other observations of the industry at large. I worked at a retail chain. It was an upscale supermarket that really focused heavily on wine. We had 5 locations, mostly in Michigan, real high-end wines. I had over 4,000 SKUs, 4,000 different selections in the shop that I was working at. We had everything from the simple wines like Maomi all the way up to Krug, all the first growths, some high-end Burgundy. I don't want to reveal the shop's name because I was trying to work on getting a partnership with them on this channel, and I don't want to do any more extra promotion for them. I did enough already, as a lot of customers would come into the shop and say, "Oh my gosh, you're that guy from YouTube." When that happened, they'd usually just buy a ton of wine. So let's get into it. Number one, people want what they want. Maybe they don't always know what they want in terms of a wine, but they want what they want. I think I learned a lot about this being in chiropractic practice. I got into chiropractic for more metaphysical, philosophical reasons. I like the concept of balance, so the body works as well as possible. That's really the fundamental nature of chiropractic, but a lot of people saw it for musculoskeletal problems. People are not coming into my office, I learned early on, because they want balance, they want their body to be as healthy as possible. No, they have problems and they want them fixed. You have to identify that. That was really the art of practice and the art of selling wine, figuring out what people really wanted and then pulling them into a world where you give them what they want, but also hopefully lead them down a path where they want to learn and explore a little bit more. Wine writing, we talk about all these esoteric wines. We have all these descriptors. To most people, it looks like absolute gaga. We have to do a better job in the wine industry of finding out what people want, then matching that wine, that experience to their needs, their wants, their desires, and then hopefully lighten a path so they'll go further down the rabbit hole and drink more wine, which ultimately all of us want. My friend Robert Joseph from the UK, he said, "I don't think that wine needs more education, it needs more seducers." People to make wine look cool. That's hopefully what I'm doing on this channel. So that comes down to the next point. When people come in and buy a bottle of wine, when you come in and want to buy a bottle of wine, you usually want to feel or look good. A lot of times people are buying it either as a gift for somebody else, buying it for dinner, or buying it to share with a bunch of family and friends. So in that case, they want to make sure they get the most bang for the buck. The wine tastes good, and they're looking good in the process. I've learned that this is also an art, but you can identify it really, really quickly. If you're going into a wine shop, and I think that's what you should lead with, "Hey, I'm bringing this as a gift. I need it to be impressive. This is what the person does, be it he's a doctor or just a casual wine drinker, or this person likes Chardonnay, or this people likes Burgundy, this people likes Pinot Noir, this person likes Cabernet Sauvignon." Go ahead and communicate that with the shop owner. And on to the next point. People buy from people that they trust. Obviously, I had some clout being here on YouTube, so people would buy wine from me. Your local shop owner, supermarket, wine director, restaurant owner, develop a relationship with them. If you're going to a same place to buy wine frequently, have a conversation with the people that work there. They're pretty passionate. They actually want to help you. And once they give you a few good recommendations, you start to trust them. But the key is building relationships like anything in life. Next is the fact that everybody still loves New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. 3 out of our top 10 most sold wines of the year were New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. But I get it. People love it because it's crisp, linear, affordable, and dependable. The next tip is for you. If you like a wine, take pictures and know your price point. There are so many wines being made around the world. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of different labels. Even wine pros, wine experts have to specialize because you can't know the whole world of wine. When customers would come in sometimes and say, "Oh, I like this one wine. It had this blue label. I got it at this one place." That doesn't help me. There is no excuse to not take pictures. You have a phone. Everybody has a smartphone. Take pictures of the wines that you've liked. Take several of them. Show them to the person that's working there or the sommelier. That's going to help them guide you to the right direction. And along that line, when you show them the photo, do not be afraid to state your price point. And it does not have to be something that you think that you should spend. If you only want to spend $15, say that I need a wine that's under $15. Be very direct. Show them pictures of wines you've liked. Tell them about flavors that you've liked. They will help direct you to the best wine possible. So please, 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 that was my biggest pet peeve when I was working retail. Use your phone. Take pictures of the wines that you like. And if you love wine, you got to be able to enjoy it. I've actually just started a partnership with Glassfin. Some of the best regarded glass companies in the world are either Austrian, German, or Swiss. I like that Glassfin is an American company. They make a variety of glasses. They've performed well in glass tests that I've done. I like that they're delicate and elegant. They're sturdy too. It's not like a Zalto where you touch it and you feel like it's going to break. I love these glasses. I have a link in the description box. I do get a small commission if you choose to use those links, but it helps the channel out, so I appreciate it. Next point, us wine pros, us wine geeks hate is that scores still matter. They matter a ton to everybody, the casual wine drinker or the hardcore collector, and a lot of times they don't even care who scored the wines. That's why I think a lot of wine publications, wine media have figured this out to get more and more bombastic scores, help producers sell, but it's helping producers, but on the flip side, in the long run, does that help the consumer? If the consumer sees a wine that was scored 95 points in the Decanter World Wine Awards, it's under $15, they don't know that that wine won a gold medal in a price category, so they buy it, they take it home, they can be disappointed. I also found with collectors, when they were spending $100, $200, $300, even $1,000 on a bottle of wine, they usually wanted it to be scored high by Robert Parker's The Wine Advocate. That to me was really disappointing. I had a customer that I actually loved, and he was saying, I only buy and keep wines in my fridge that are above 95 points. I know us in the wine world, that drives us nuts. This is the reality. Scores still matter because it's an easy way to simplify wine. This is hard. I think people in the wine business, we get so passionate about what we know. We want to share all this information. People do not care about how much we know. They don't care at all. You only have 45 seconds with an interaction a lot of times, so you got to go quickly. You got to get into what they want. They have to get on their day. They don't want to hear you talk about the soils. Once in a while, they like to know if you've been to the place. I found that helps sell wine. But just other factors about wine, the history, you can spout on and on and on, and maybe they might sit there, but their eyes glazed over. Sometimes like, man, this person's crazy. Sometimes they like the passion, but you just got to know people don't care about how much you know. People just want to get their needs met. Next point, I was in an upper class market, so obviously people were buying wines that were a little bit more expensive in the $30, $50 range often, which is pretty expensive for even America, but around the world as well. But people do love wine. I know the chain that I was at have a lot of respect around the world with a lot of my European producer friends, American producer friends, because we do move a lot of wine. I know there's been a downturn in the wine business, but we were down about 5, maybe close to 10% this year from last year. And of course, that's not healthy for an industry if you have revenues and sales falling. But there were people out there still wanting to know more about wine, especially young people. Young people want to explore more. They didn't want to buy by the case, but I saw that they had no problems buying wines in the $25 to $30, $40 range. If they trust the person selling the wine and they feel like they're getting their needs met and there is value there. Next point. There is a big diversity of palates. When I'm with my wine media friends, we usually tend to like the same things. We want wines that are earthy, that show more elegance, that have a little bit more acidity. It becomes redundant. All wine pros love Riesling, quote unquote, which I do. However, working retail, I saw, wow, there is a reason that there are a lot of different wines because people like a lot of different styles. Everything like those big Pinot Noirs that may be a little bit overripe. Big, humongous red wines are not my personal preference, yet a lot of people do like them. My shop even had a big red Zinfandel section. It's not a grape that I reach for most of the times, but there were people that are diehard about it. So there is a wine out there for every palate, and that's a lesson for you. If you don't like a wine, there are so many wines out there. I am pretty darn sure you'll find something eventually if you're willing to explore and taste a lot of things that you'll love. Next point was something for the industry. Observation a little bit on the 3-tier system. I obviously work for a lot of distributors. In America, if when we're talking about imported wines, there are three separate businesses, three filters that the wines have to go through. The importer, number one, then another company that distributes, and then another company that sells. That's the retail. Wines get marked up along every point. For me, my wine career started in Europe, where there's a lot more open borders, and you can just, if you're a shop owner, you can just go buy wines and you can get them shipped and then put them on the shelves and sell. I know there's more red tape, but it's a little bit more simple. I used to think, man, if we can get rid of that three-tier system in America, wines will be a little bit less. People drink more wine. Working retail, I realized that system is never going away. Distribution is big business. And, I got close with a lot of reps, and their livelihood depends on selling wine. So if that went away, they'd be out of a job. The system is a well-oiled machine at this point, and unfortunately, I don't see that changing anytime soon. That's unfortunate for wine lovers. The next point that was eye-opening for me when I came back to America, when I joined some collector groups and when I started working retail, is overall, amongst people that spend a little bit more and more money on wines, it's still France, Napa Cab, some Champagne, and everybody else. For me, that's unfortunate. We actually had in my shop a humongous French section that was the biggest section. Even had a big Alsatian section, which was rare because Alsatian wines are not super popular. Even my collector friends, we taste everything blind. It took me years to convince them finally to do a Sangiovese blind tasting. Most of the time, it was more French wines. People regarded French wines as aging better, or Napa Cab, those highly scored Napa Cabs, or those cabs that are highly allocated. I was shocked as a wine geek, as a wine pro. I love Italian wines. It was one of my first loves when it comes to wine is Italy. And I had a great Italian section, some great Barolos, Barbarescos, a huge selection of Etna, some geeky stuff. And it was amazing how hard it was to sell Barolo and Barbaresco. But French wines, they moved a lot easier. To me, that was completely shocking because I'm inundated with in the wine pro world where Italy's fantastic with all these unique varieties. But I realized how confusing it is to the normal consumer. And sometimes those Italian wines with the sharp acidity, the sharp tannins can just be a bit much for the casual wine drinker. But that brings me to the next point. On the flip side, the next category people were willing to spend on were experimental wines, minimal intervention wines, or odd countries. Maybe this confirmation bias because I have a lot of knowledge in Eastern Europe, but we had a section of other countries like South Africa, Greece, Slovenia, Hungary, Croatia. People wanted to discover those wines and were willing to spend not a ton of money like the collectible wines, but we're willing to spend, $20 to $30 to explore. My wine career actually started in Eastern Europe, and then I quickly learned, I can't make a living or I can't make a lot of money telling about these wines to the external world. Of course, people loved me within the countries I was working because I was showing their wines, but a lot of times those wines are consumed locally. They're not exported. They're not distributed because they're small production, or by the time they get exported, they're going to be really expensive. To piggyback off that, I saw that orange wines, amber wines are still really popular. It is a niche, but when people really love these wines, they're willing to spend quite a bit of money and they're willing to fill up their cart as long as you know what you're talking about. This is great for me. My wine career started actually in kind of that space, the minimal intervention orange amber wine niche. I've seen those wines improve tremendously in quality over the last 10 years, and they are delicious, unique, and I do think that you should explore them. The last point, and this is for you, if you go to a shop and they do not have the exact wine you want, tell the person selling the wine, I am open to suggestions. That's when people that work at the shop or the restaurant get the most excited because you're trusting their knowledge. They get to show off. They get to show you some unique things. Be open to it. Say, okay, you don't have this wine. Do you have something similar? Or I'm open to trying something new if it has this type of flavor, if it has this type of acidity, if it has this kind of tan level, if it's this kind of roundness. That's where you'll get the best out of an employee, somebody that's actually selling you their wine, and you're usually going to get something that's pretty darn good.